So it's like even there, it's not you haven't got completely away from
No,
having an origin source.
is the plastic cap recyclable and widely recyclable?
I don't know. Um, Often the caps that are on products here are not labeled for
Hmm.
the kind of recycling that we have at curbside pickup. And then that's it's a good point, but also something I've thought about too is that I feel like I've seen reports where it just says like 90% of the plastic that's supposed to be being recycled, at least in this country, is just being thrown away. It's not actually being recycled. So it's
Yeah.
like, we sort our recyclables. We've got tons of boxes out because I get all kinds of shipping boxes in. It's like, oh, I'm not worried about the paper products, but even though we sort the plastic and send it out with the recycling, I'm not sure that it's actually getting recycled.
No. No. And we have exactly the same thing here, and it's really frustrating. But um, yeah, so the kind of push. So my supervisor, Richard's kind of moved. Now he's head of our Marine Institute here, so he doesn't do so much research, but he does a lot of not outreach even. He deals a lot with government and with a lot of European Commission stuff. So he's quite influential. And he really strongly believes, and so do the rest of us, that the problem with plastic isn't it's not it's an amazing product. It's an amazing it's revolutionized how we live as humans.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do without it. But whenever plastic is made, the manufacturer should be responsible for its end of use, or
Okay.
there should be no end of use. So rather than single-use packaging, single-use plastic should not be a thing. There should be no such thing as single-use plastic. But the problem is that when products, so for instance, a sandwich in a supermarket, so a lunchtime sandwich, the main the main description for when somebody's designing the packaging is that it needs to be attractive and it needs to keep the food fresh for as long as possible.
Mm-hmm.
There is absolutely no brief for what the packaging does or where it goes after the person's eaten the sandwich. And that priority needs to go at the top for a while, so
Mm-hmm.
that no packaging should be made without a thought of where it's going to go at the end,
Mm-hmm.
which would be great. But then also, from the other direction, the government and councils need to pump more money into waste management so that we are clear across all counties or your districts. The capabilities of recycling is the same. Because I mean, I have no idea how much of my recycling actually gets recycled.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if I'm not sure if it can be recycled, I throw it in anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not a particularly good thing to do because it kind
Right.
of closes up the whole recycling
Yeah,
system
I
with
do
stuff
the same
that can't be
thing.
recycled. But you think, like, I don't want to put it in the bin. I genuinely don't want to put it in the bin.
Right.
And also, like, I'm like, it shouldn't go in. Like, I shouldn't have to put this in the bin. Like, come on. So, yeah, it's tough. And the manufacturers of plastic have just had no responsibility until we hope now, really. There needs to be an approach from both directions. So, it's all well and good saying to consumers, like, we need to be responsible for what we're buying. And yeah, obviously, but if you can't afford the non-plastic alternatives, then you can't help it. You really
Mm-hmm.
can't help but buy the cheaper products in plastic, and that shouldn't be that person's fault.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't. They shouldn't have to feel guilty for buying plastic that's then not recycled. So yeah, just putting a higher value on plastic. It's not disposable. It's not a throwaway resource anymore. um, but in countries like the UK and the US, that's fine. But one of my research colleagues has just recently come back from India.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big, big issue in India. Like, I don't know how, I have no idea how they're going to tackle it. I mean, you know, I recently went to Japan for work as well, and everything's triple wrapped in Japan in plastic.
Hmm.
And they're really clean society, and there's no litter, but everything is triple wrapped. So trying to change, sort of cultural, it is almost sort of a cultural thing, with cleanliness. Or, in India, they just don't have waste management.
Right.
They still, their litter, well, the river is how, they're like, well, we do get rid of our rubbish. We put it in the river. It gets taken away.
It's not here anymore. It's not my problem.
Yeah. So, but they just don't understand.
Yeah.
And they need bottled water, otherwise they'll get ill. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, and the fishing industry as well. We find a lot of our beach litter is from the fishing industry here.
Hmm.
Um, and how you tackle that, again, like, until there's an alternative that is even possible or affordable and affordable, I don't really know how we can persuade a fisherman to spend more money on a different style of net. Or I mean, we do get a lot of the beach litter is bits of net that have been cut off when they've been fixing net, and they do throw that overboard. So that is something that could stop. So yeah, it's
Right.
a change of behaviour as well. I mean, actually, we've got a very strong environmental psychology department at Plymouth University, which looks closely into changing behaviour and perceptions with litter.
Yeah. I was like, there's so many facets of it that it's like that's the thing. It's tough for I think for one person to try to wrap their head around, especially me because I'm just not involved in it nearly as much as you are. I come at it from kind of the business side, and to me, it's one of those things where if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So I'm like, I think about it from like the economy side, where it's like because I go to the grocery store, everything's in plastic. I go to like a general store. I want to go buy soap, whatever it is for shampoo or detergent or dishwashing liquid or what. It's all in plastic. It's so pervasive. I'm like, what's the most elegant solution? Whether it's possible, I don't know, but it seems like the most elegant solution is like a biodegradable form of plastic. And I don't know if that's possible. And the reason I say that, I'm happy to have your opinion on this, is that because I think of the alternative. Say we could, and this isn't derogatory towards you. I'm just trying to imagine. Say we could eliminate plastics entirely and use everything renewable, like in the case with the local dairy that sells things in the glass bottles. Say we could do everything in glass or paper. Like there down the road from me, there's a new shop opening up that's like a soap refill place where if you have a bottle, you can bring it in, fill it, you use it at your home, then you go back to the shop and fill it again. So you're not buying a new bottle. Like that model's trying to come out, but it's going to take like such enormous um, monetary resources to set up a completely different economic system. That's why I'm like, if we just could figure out how to make a biodegradable plastic or plastic equivalent, doesn't have to be plastic. Um, that would be the most elegant solution to me. But I'd love to have your opinion on that.
Mm. Well, yeah, I agree, and also some of the alternatives still have their own problems. For instance, if you switch over from synthetic clothing to cotton, the cotton industry has its issues as well,
Yeah,
and what obviously is no good for vegans. So, yeah, it's an absolute minefield. Biodegradable plastics is a really hot topic.
yeah,
So there's an issue in the UK with labelling of plastics,
mm-hmm.
a really big issue. They say they're compostable, and they actually mean industrially compostable. So they're not really compostable in like the general public's view.
Right. You
Not,
can't stick them out in the backyard and have them biodegrade and
not everybody has an industrial composter in their back garden. They have a composter. Um, So yeah, we've got to be really careful, and also there's quite a lot of research looking into effects of biodegradable plastic, because all it kind of really means is that it will degrade faster. So
Right.
it will go from macro to micro faster, and micro to nano faster, but we still don't know actually, how long it stays around in the micro and the nano form. It'll still be long enough to cause harm. Because if it's just a year, it will cause harm if it's in the wrong place.
Right.
Um, but also there's additives. It's not just the plastic, it's all the additives and the coatings. So
Right.
biodegradable glitter has got coatings on it, and it's the same coatings as normal litter. So, there's research at the moment going into the levels of harm, with all the different sort of levels of biodegradability, of plastics. So it's been picked up on as a really good and quick, easy fix, but the research is now sort of trying to catch up with industry, and like rein everyone back in a little bit, potentially, because unfortunately, it may not be the answer,
Mm-hmm.
not for the long term. It's better, but yeah, we've got to be very careful. I mean, with regards to what you can do in the house, as long, if you can really figure out what is recyclable in your area, then don't be afraid of using clear or white plastic.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, anything that's not got a really strong pigment in and is pure, like PET, polyethylene, or acrylic, can be recycled fairly easily. But anything with a strong pigment in, the recycling, it's got no value in it, because it's just not something that they can add into other plastics when they melt it all down for recycling. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I mean, I just try and limit. I'm just going back to simplifying things, really. I just use soap, and I use shampoo in a bottle, but I make sure the bottle's recyclable, and I don't wash my hair that often. Well, I do, but I just, um, yeah, you just got to do every little bit that you can. But it's the classic thing where if you say you're just, oh, it's such a big problem, I don't know what I can do. My little, thing with using soap instead of shower gel, what good is that? But obviously, if a million people say that,
Mm-hmm.
then that's a million bottles, and it's a significant amount of plastic that is just going to lie around, in landfill potentially. So, I think everyone's sort of just got to do their little bit. You've got to decide. I'm happier to pay a little bit more money for a product that's not in plastic, but then that's me. I am only on a student salary, but I prioritise better quality without plastic than and less of it than buying loads of stuff in plastic. I try not to buy food on the run. I try and make sure, I've got my metal
Mm-hmm.
water bottle with me all the time, and I take lunches with me. I try not to rely on buying a lunch, because I know it will come in single-use plastic. So it's just a change of behaviour. Like, you take your shop. I don't know in the US about shopping bags, but I take shopping bags with me wherever I go, and it's
Yeah.
become natural. Um, for me. But we've just got to start doing these things. Like, you wouldn't go out of the house without a raincoat. So
Mm.
don't go out of the house without your bag and your water bottle. As long as it's easy for you to fill up the water bottle. In the UK now, you can ask just about anywhere and they'll fill up your water bottle. But
Yeah.
5 years ago, they would have said, "Well, are you buying something?"
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like that now. I mean, we've had the Attenborough effect, we call it over here. So Sir David Attenborough is our BBC nature
Yeah.
guy. So when he did Blue Planet 2 a couple of years ago, there was a huge shift in public perception of plastics after that. It really, massively changed the conversations I had with people. yeah, it was really good. Everyone suddenly became really worried about it. So that's really helped with trying to create these smaller solutions on a day-to-day basis. The shops in Plymouth are much more aware of providing an alternative to plastic cutlery or single-use plastics,
Mhm.
straws, things like that. So it's going to get there. It will get there, but we just need some backup from industry.
Yeah.
Really, at this point, we're really at a time where I think we're not far from one of the really really big companies. Maybe not sort of Coca-Cola, but in the UK, I'm really hoping that one of the big brands will just go plastic free
Hmm.
where they can, and then it will just be a roller coaster from there. Hope a rollerball effect. Um, you hope.
Yeah. I know you mentioned the bags at the store, and I know that there's starting to be like small incentives. Like we went to Hawaii on vacation last year, and they have like a new law that charges for bags. If you get plastic bags, it charges for them. So if you bring your own bags, you don't get charged. Or here, um, I'm the madman that walks around the store without a cart or or like a shopping basket or anything, and I'm carrying everything to the checkout, and then they try to put it in the bags, and I say, "Don't do that." And then I walk out with everything like as a bundle in my arms because I forget the bags, but I'm like, "Don't give me the plastic bags." And we do still end up with them from time to time, but just like I used to be several years ago, I'd do that and everybody looked like I'm crazy. And then more and more, it's been like, okay, I get it. Like, you're not the only weirdo that does this. Like, this is happening more
Yeah.
often. So I have a little bit of hope that slowly, maybe people are adopting these kind of habits. Um,
We think in the UK, we think of the US being still using like paper bags with their
no,
groceries.
it's absurd. Depending on the store, like Walmart is a good example. If you're not going to self checkout, which there's no cashier, you just ring your own items up and bag them however you want. But it would be that you could go, or the grocery store is especially bad. Any grocery store, you go, you'll have, say you have a dozen items. Somehow they'll give you 6 bags. You're like, those would all fit in one bag. Why are you giving me 6 bags? It's like they
Wow,
want to give you as many bags as they possibly can. It's like, what? Like, who trained you to do this? Because this is the work. There's something about.
it was
I
throwaway.
think. I think part of it is like trying to separate things. Like produce goes in one bag, and meat goes in one bag, and then like chips goes in another bag, and
Yeah.
it's like there are a lot of these things you can put in one bag together, and it's perfectly fine.
See, that's the behavior thing. Like
Yeah.
we've we've just been accustomed to convenience
Yeah.
and hygiene as well is part of it. And we just need to backtrack a little bit and prioritize the environment over stuff that we don't really need in an everyday life.
Yeah.
But people don't prioritize the environment at all.
Right.
Um, as a lot of the time, money is the primary driver for what people are purchasing. So,
Yeah.
it's yeah, the psychology of it is really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if I've learned anything um, from being an entrepreneur, it's that as a consumer, and I don't, this obviously is a broad stroke, but as a consumer, people just seem to care about how will it affect me, and if there's not this like immediate effect, basically immediate, then I don't care.
Mm.
So if we're thinking about like this grand impact on the environment, it's like it's nice. Like I talk about, um, there are companies that are like B corporations that basically benefit nonprofits or some kind of cause outside of the business itself. So some of those could be, for like funding research on the environment, but people are like, at least my understanding of people's consumer behaviors is they're not going to buy a product just because it benefits, you know, the environment. they'll buy it if it solves their problem and they
Mm.
like it. And if it also it helps the environment, that's just a side benefit.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Is my camera frozen?
A little bit, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Don't know.
We're
It's just
we're we're way over time, but I did. Well, I'm sure we could keep going.
yeah.
Um,
I
but
think it's just said it can't connect to my chosen camera, so I think it's just had enough.
that's okay. That's okay. Well, so we'll kind of wrap up here. So I'm asking everybody this year the same question, and the question I'm asking everybody this year is, what do you think the purpose of sport is?
Hmm. Well, I feel like it's for my mental health. I feel like I've relied on sport sort of subconsciously without realizing. But the older I get, and if I have spells where I don't do it, I certainly feel like I lose my little venting stream. Um, so it's the kind of like my happy bug. Um, so for me, yeah, um, my purpose for sport is to feel a mental and physical purpose.
It's a good answer. I haven't got that one yet, so I'm interested to see what everybody says this year, since it's such a broad question, and I think sport affects us all a little bit differently. So I love to hear what other people think and how it kind of participates in their lives. Um, Madie, thanks for spending some time with me. If people want to find you or see your research, keep up with microplastics and what you guys are doing, where can people find you?
Well, my science stuff is on Twitter, although I'm not like hugely great at making sure I keep things up to date, which is Maddie Steer. So, which is, I guess you might have my name written down because it's a
Yeah, I
funny
do.
of Maddie. It's not really a proper Maddie, it's Madie, apparently, according to my English teacher. I spelled my name wrong. Um, and I'm on Instagram as well. And if they want to look at gig rowing, just Google it. And there's a lot of YouTube videos of gig rowing in the UK. And science wise as well, if you Google Plymouth University and Madeline Steer, I've got a website on the Plymouth University website. And you can look into what our research group does.
Good deal. Is that if that's the link? We'll talk about this after, but I'll try to include a link for people on YouTube, um, or get in the description on SoundCloud. I'll try to include a link in the description that'll click you straight over to that research page.
Yeah,
Thanks for spending some time with me, Maddie.
that's no problem. Nice to speak to you.
Take care.